What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down this two-game playing slate for Wednesday on DraftKings. So that's right, we have another two-game playing slates between the Bulls and Raptors and the Thunder and the Pelicans. I'm going to be talking through my favorite early little core plays as well as doing a game-by-game breakdown, talking through the rotation expectations for minutes, all that good stuff in this breakdown. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We had a great night on PrizePicks yesterday as well as almost had a potential takedown in the 100K to first tournament last night. So I'll get into those after this intro. But yeah, make sure to check out my Patreon link down below. That's where I do more in-depth breakdowns and write-ups for this NBA slate, as well as my prize pick plays. So make sure to check that out down below. Hit that like button, and let's get into the breakdown and review of my lineups. As you can see here, it was a great night for me on DraftKings. This is the main 100K to first tournament here. And I had a legit shot of a takedown, got 438th place out of what, 26,500. And just kind of got screwed. Not much I can do. No Hero was fine, 36 points. Noel, 11 points. Hunter, 16. Towns, 52. Bam, 39. Lowry, 48. Jalen Johnson, 27. And LeBron James, 58. So I talked about my Patreon write-up, how I really liked Noel and Johnson as like my favorites. Two cheap guys to like dart throw plays to take a shot on. That was kind of my stance there. And Johnson was absolutely fantastic there, 9% ownership. And Noel, I'm just super frustrated because if you play DFS throughout the regular season, Noel was their main guy off the bench. He was their sixth man. He's one of those guys who's super aggressive. In like 15, 20 minutes, he could easily go for 20, 25, 30 plus fantasy points, depending on how much he's doing. And so I loved him. They said he was available to play. They had no one to come off the bench besides him, McLaughlin, and NAW. And of course, he's super low owned, 17%. They go with NAW and McLaughlin. I thought Noel was going to get a DMP. I thought he was going to get a DMP. Luckily, he got in. He did okay, but it's just like he's your sixth man all year. And now that you guys have actually no one to play off the bench, you're not going to play him at all. He's going to get 13 minutes. That makes no sense. So that screwed me there. Hunter was super aggressive, looking like he was in a huge night. 23 minutes, massive foul trouble. He could not stay on the floor because of that foul trouble. Super annoying there. So those two obviously did not help out my lineup. Everyone else was great besides Bam. It's like really 12 shots. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I was so pissed. Watching that game, they deserved to lose. They should have lost by 40. Spoelstra sucks. He's just not a good coach. They lost that game because of him. The whole first quarter was Bam or Jimmy Isos. Did not get Bam involved at all. Not once. Like, what are you doing? The best matchup on the court is Bam versus Capella, and you're just not going to feed him the ball? He didn't score a point till the 9-minute mark in the second quarter. You're telling me Bam is not going to score a single point till the 9-minute mark in the second quarter because you don't give him the ball. They did not give him the ball. He was posting up like 20 times. They just did not throw it. They refused to throw it to him. Instead, they wanted Jimmy to go 3 of 9 from the field in the first quarter. It's just mind-blowing stuff, what they did with Bam last night. And then it turned into the third and fourth quarter where he just did not even want to shoot the ball because he was just that out of the offense. It was they deserved to lose, and they did. Obviously, Kyle Lowry was fantastic. Jalen Johnson was great there. One of those high-energy guys. I talked about my Patreon write-up. And then LeBron James was really solid. Surprised he's only 18% ownership and a smash spot against the Timberwolves there. So, yeah, legit shot of takedown. Unfortunately, Hunter and Noel just didn't do too much, and Kyle Anderson had a huge night. But yeah, I'll take a 4x, $20 into 80. Can't complain about that. So yeah, make sure to check that out on my Patreon. I also put up my price pick plays. We went 5-2. Bam hit the over there on the YouTube plays. Anthony Davis hit the over there for the YouTube plays. So 2-0 on the YouTube plays, clean sweep there. And then overall, hit 3 other ones with Kyle Anderson over points and rebounds. Rebounds and assists, Jimmy over assists, and then Cat over fantasy score there. The 2 we lost on, we got pretty much absolutely hooked on. It was Austin Reeves over 4 assists. He had 11 potential assists. He only hit 3. People just couldn't shoot on the Lakers. And then same thing with Mike Conley. He had 4. We needed 5 for the push there. And unfortunately, the Timberwolves just couldn't hit shots when Mike Conley was throwing the ball. So annoying there, but overall it was a great night on PrizePicks. Still made a ton of money. Still made a ton of money on DraftKings there. So yeah, looking to continue that tonight, and let's get into it. So starting off with this first game here, Chicago and Toronto. Toronto's favored by 6 points, and it's a 212 212.5 game total, which is super, super low and very, very disgusting. I don't think we've had a game total that low all year. But now we do. So we'll have to wait and see if that actually stays true. But right now, in these games, it's win or go home. It's do or die. So we can expect even more minutes for kind of the main guys here between both teams here. It's not like last night where those teams were if they lost, they still had a chance to win in their next game to get into the playoffs. For these teams tonight, it's win or go home. So keep that in mind. They're going to be running very tight rotations. All these teams pretty much have been running very tight rotations, like 8, 9 people at most, the past like 2 months, pretty much the whole season, besides OKC. But we'll get into that there in a minute. But on the Chicago side here, starting off, as we can see, the big three are all very, very cheap considered, compared to what they were throughout the season. Throughout the season, Vooch was kind of floating between 7, 9, and at one point he was like 9,000 for like pretty much like a month straight there in January, and he's kind of dwindled off a bit. And then kind of the same thing for Zach and DeRozan. They've all were close to 9,000, maybe even a little bit more, depending on how they were playing throughout the year. And now we're getting them at very cheap price tags. Obviously, it's not the best matchup. Toronto's getting slightly better. Last year they were great at defense. This year they were Swiss cheese until halfway through the season. Now they're a little bit better, but still, I think it's a very solid matchup here for the Bulls. Obviously, we know if we had to pick one, I'd probably land on Zach just because he's the cheapest and he will be super aggressive when he's shooting the ball. Obviously, sometimes he is pretty scoring dependent, as we saw there against Detroit. Obviously, the game blew out, but he can have those type of games where he goes out there, plays like tonight. It would probably be close to 40 minutes, and just have a decent night. But yeah, I think if I had to choose one, it'd be Zach. If I had to choose two, it'd be Zach and Vooch. I'm not saying DeRozan's out of play. I think he probably will be the lowest owned one out of the three of them, just because people are going to want to go to Vooch and Zach, just because they're a little bit safer, a little bit cheaper, and I just think they draw the eye a little bit more than DeRozan does in this matchup. And DeRozan, I think he's struggled against Toronto this year. I guess 3 games he's averaged what 14. Yeah, he's struggled 14 points per game in the 3 games against him this year. Obviously, that doesn't tell all the story, everything. Let's look at Vooch, 18, so pretty much about his average, maybe a point more. And then Zach, 23. So yeah, I think people are going to lean towards Zach and Vooch. So if you want a cheaper, lower owned DeRozan, you can definitely, or excuse me, not cheaper, but lower owned DeRozan, you can definitely go to him. I think all three are great plays. I think all three are in play. I think I'm gonna get to at least one. Let's wait and see which one that is. Maybe two, but I think all three look great. Now, in terms of the secondary guys, they're obviously the starters are going to be DeRozan, Vooch, Levine, Pat Bev. I think they might throw Caruso in the starting lineup. We'll get to him in a second, but I think that's going to be the starting five. So off the bench, they'll bring Pat Williams. He should see, I'd say at least 20, maybe 25. He can definitely get you there, but at 4,800, he's just more of an okay play. I don't mind taking a shot on him, but it's going to be the DeMar DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine show. Pat Williams can have those games where he hits a couple threes, gets some blocks, some rebounds. So I don't mind him. He's definitely in play, but I think he's more of an okay play there. But he is small forward, power forward eligible, which does help out your lineups. Moving on to Pat Bev, I think he's an okay play as well. Should see mid-20s minutes. Maybe he sneaks into like 30, 31. But it really just depends on how he's playing, if he's in foul trouble, if he's hitting any shots. Sometimes he does not get involved in just the offensive flow of things and kind of just stands there, and they do kind of sit him because of that. But yeah, I think he's a fine play there, 4,400. We obviously know he has some upside. He can get some blocks, steals, rebounds, can hit a 3 or 2. So I don't mind him. Io, should see about 18 to 25 ish minutes. I really don't think there's a need to play him. Obviously, it's a 2-game slate. Everyone's in play. You could take a shot on him, but if you're going to take a shot on the guards, I'd rather go to Beverly or Caruso. We're pretty much the same price tag of Io, and they should have way more minutes. So I don't think there's a need to get to Io, but you definitely could if you wanted to. And then for Caruso, the minutes haven't been great recently, but he is still kind of like he's one of those injury-prone guys. He's been fighting through injuries all year, pretty much his whole career. So I think they were kind of limiting him a little bit here, and they will need his defense here versus Toronto. So I think for Caruso, we can expect, I'd say mid-20s minutes, maybe even more. That's what I think. I mean, they really need his defense. So I don't know why they would limit him unless they're very, really, really struggling and they need offense off the bench. But I think Caruso's in line for huge minutes. 3,900. I really, really like him in this matchup. Obviously, he's, kind of, he doesn't have really a good offensive game at all, but we know he's a guy who can get some steals, some blocks, some assists, some rebounds. And if he hits a couple shots, I mean, that really, really, really helps out. So, I mean, all we really need is like a game like this versus Charlotte. He played 21 minutes, but he got 26 and a half fantasy points. I think we can expect 30 plus minutes tonight. Now, I'm not, that could definitely not happen, but I think they really need his defense. So I really like taking a shot here on the upside there for Caruso just in terms of his minutes. So really like him as one of the cheaper value plays. And then I think for like their ninth man, they'll probably go to either Drummond or Derrick Jones Jr. And it really depends on, how big Toronto goes. Toronto off the bench, they're tall, but they're skinny. So, Derrick Jones Jr. could do something there. But it really just depends if they need some 3-point shooting, if Drummond gets in foul trouble. But those will be kind of the eighth, nine-man guys that they'll kind of split between. Um, Javonte Green is also back, so maybe there's a chance that they could throw Javonte Green in. I'll throw that in. He's a super high energy guy. They really, really liked him during like the beginning of the season. He was a guy who would go out there, play 15 minutes if he's doing really well, closer to mid 20s. He's another one of those guys who can just do a little bit of everything. So he's definitely worth a dart throw on this slate. Minutes aren't guaranteed, but he's definitely in contention with Drummond and Jones for like really cheap dart throw plays. Moving on to Toronto here. Siakam, Van Fleet obviously going to lead this team. I prefer Van Fleet just because he's a little bit cheaper, but they both have pretty much the similar and same upside. Great spot here versus the Bulls, but I do think I prefer Van Fleet there. Scotty Barnes, he's really hit or miss. It's like one game he goes for 40 and a half, 50 fantasy points, and the next game he goes for like 16. So I don't mind taking a shot on him here at 7,000. It's a decent price tag. We know he has upside. It's just, it's like a shot in the dark. It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard. You really don't know what he's going to, come out and do. But I think he's a very solid play, especially compared to OG. OG's been a little bit more consistent. I mean, all four of these starters are going to see probably close to 40 minutes. So it's like all firmly in play. But I like Van Fleet. I like Siakam just for their upside. Scotty has that upside, but it's just his production is, kind of up and down. OG, it's just, he's been shooting. He's been aggressive when it comes to shooting the ball. He's more of just like a 3-and-D guy, but we know his upside. If he's going to play close to 40 minutes, which he probably will, he looks like a solid play, but I think I do prefer Scotty over him just because of I think Scotty has a little bit more upside. Now, in terms of like the bigs, I'm not really sure what they're going to do. Podol was obviously the bigger guy compared to like a Boucher, compared to like a Chua off the bench. And I think they're going to need him and his like just his size for guarding Vooch, but his minutes have not been great recently. Obviously, it's the end of the season, but they still needed to win some games. And 22, 23, 21 minutes wasn't like he was in huge foul trouble at all either. 11 minutes versus Milwaukee, so his minutes are kind of the question mark there. But if he's going to be playing close to 30 minutes, obviously he's huge, huge, huge upside. He can go for 40 plus, 50 plus, depending on how he's playing. So I don't mind taking a shot on him at 5,700, especially if people are going to go to Achua, Boucher off the bench. I think we can really take advantage of the ownership there and just ride with Podol because I do think they'll need his size because Vooch should be able to absolutely bully Boucher or Achua. Precious has kind of been stealing some of Podol's minutes and he's been super productive recently. So that's the big issue there is like I just do not know if they're going to go ride with Podol and give him his normal minutes of like close to 30 or go with Achua off the bench. But they're both in play. I think I prefer Podol, but they both look decent at their price tags. Boucher, I think he looks okay. Should see 15 to 20 minutes off the bench. He's actually a very, very productive guy, but he's more of like a dart throw play, and he doesn't come in at the best price tag. And then Gary Trent Jr., he's kind of like a Kyle Lowry play from last night. He's going to be extremely popular. He's very, very score independent. Kyle Lowry isn't. He's more of just like a playmaker who actually just hit his shots last night. But Gary Trent's, pretty much just 3-and-D. He's just a shooter. If he's not hitting his shots, he can have very, very low, low floors. You can see here 2 fantasy points there in 16 minutes against Boston. But I think it's one of those you just eat the chalk and get different elsewhere. And that's really it for Toronto. Maybe they'll throw in a little bit of like Barton, but I don't think they'll go there. Moving on to the OKC side here. For OKC, the 3 main guys, or 4 main games, excuse me, SGA, Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Dort, all going to play huge minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 of them play 40 minutes. And then off the bench, they'll play Jalen Williams as the 5. I'm not sure how many minutes we'll get. I think they'll probably be the same. And then they're going to throw in Isaiah Joe. They're going to throw in Sarge, probably maybe a little bit of Wiggins. So, I mean, you could take a shot on all those guys. I don't mind it. I think Joe would be my favorites, but they could also dip down into like a JRE, maybe Dieng off the bench. So that five, six, that five, who's ever going to, fill in the five spot after Jalen Williams goes to the bench. I have no idea who it's going to be. They can run a ton of different guys in there, but I think my favorite would just be targeting SGA, targeting Jalen Williams. Those two look great. I'm gonna throw Jalen Williams in right now. And then I got Giddy's fine in this price tag. I don't mind it. He's gonna be playing very solid minutes, but 8-8 for him feels a little bit too high. Dort looks really good. He should be playing 40 minutes guarding probably Brandon Ingram. So I think he's in line for huge minutes. He looks pretty solid there at 5,400. Wiggins, as I mentioned, is fine. Williams is fine. I think Joe would be my favorite there. Kind of like a Gary Trent. If he comes in, hits his shots, he's going to do very well. If not, he's going to screw you at 4,100. But yeah, that's kind of my take there. And then for the Pelicans, pretty easy team to break down. BI has been doing everything. I think it looks like a fantastic spend up. CJ is more of like your contrarian mid range option. Doesn't have like a huge ceiling recently just because BI is kind of stealing all of the playmaking usage. But we know he can go out there if he hits his shots, get 57, 60 plus. So I think he looks like a strong contrarian option. J-Val, kind of the same thing. J-Val's not getting a lot of love. His minutes have been down recently, but it's a smash spot here versus OKC. I know he hasn't done the best against them. He's only averaged 22 minutes in the first 4 games throughout the season against them, but I'd like taking a shot on JV tonight. We know he's massive, massive upside, 50, 60 plus, and it's a great spot here versus Jalen Williams. So I like taking a shot on him at 6,800. He'd be my second favorite play alongside Brandon Ingram, and then CJ would be the third favorite for me. The wings are definitely in play. Herb Jones and Trey Murphy should see huge minutes. They have been the past few games. Trey Murphy's more of your 3-and-D guy. He's going to shoot a ton of shots. He's had huge upside. So they look fine, both of them. No real strong takes. They're definitely both in play. Larry Nance should probably see 20 minutes, maybe some more. If you think J Val's going to struggle, I'd say, take your shot on Lance. That'd be the smart move there. And then they will mix in some Richardson and Marshall. The ball, Richardson will see 15 to 25 minutes. Marshall will see like 10 to, or I should say like 8 to maybe 15. They're definitely in play, but no real strong take there. And that's really going to do it for the breakdown. I'll have a more in-depth breakdown on my Patreon later today, this afternoon, so make sure to check that out. But yeah, this is it right now. Really like Gary Trent, really like Jalen Williams, really like Caruso. And I think I'll throw in just one of the Chicago guys. I'll just go with Vooch for now. And that is the lineup. So, or excuse me, the early core 4 look. So make sure to hit that like button. I'll have a price fix video out after this. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.